I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, January 28th regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We'll begin with roll call.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Chair Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Here.
Commissioner Way.
Here by Zoom due to sickness. I don't want to spread the germ.
Commissioner Cribbs.
Here.
Commissioner Dang.
Here.
For the record, all present.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Way. We hope you feel better soon. Next up will be public comment, and this is for members of the public to speak on any item not on the agenda. For Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please hand a speaker card to the clerk's office representative. Do we have any speaker requests to speak at this time on non-agenda items?
We have 2 requests to speak.
All right. Sarah, that doesn't work.
Three requests to speak. My apologies.
Thank you. My name is Orit.
Never mind. Sarah, it's fine. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Orit, and I'm here to speak about the plans to build restrooms at Eleanor Pardee Park. I live right behind the park. I've been a resident in Palo Alto for over 20 years, and I have lots of concerns about having restrooms in the park. We really love the park. We enjoy it on a daily basis. I think that by design, it was built as a small neighborhood park for people to enjoy for short-term periods. It was not built as a city park that is supposed to host people for long hours. The neighborhood is not big enough for the traffic that having restrooms in the park over the weekends would bring in. I'm concerned about safety issues, having more people coming into the neighborhoods. We've already had a surge in break-ins to cars and homes. Personally, I'm very concerned about noise, loitering, smoke. If people are using the grills for long hours during the summer, there's a lot of vegetation. It's a very dry area. I'm now very concerned about fire hazard. I understand that there is a suggestion to lock the restrooms if they're built after hours. So my question to the city and this committee is, what is the plan for maintenance of the restrooms? I'm concerned that having restrooms that are locked will actually attract people to use behind the restrooms as outdoor restrooms. I'm very worried about people tampering with the lock and maybe using the restrooms for drug dealings or for homeless people to use it as a safer place and warmer place during the night. But this will make our park not as safe for kids and for teens who like to hang out in this park. Finally, I will ask, as a community, I think the survey that was sent to a lot of people that will not be immediately affected by having restrooms in the park, people that are commuting to the park from further areas of the city, which is great to share the park with those people, but they will not be affected by people who will use the park in a very unrespectful way. My question to the committee is, have you considered why the restrooms at parks like Duveneck, which becomes a public park in the afternoon, are locked? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Doria S.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the staff and commission for their work so far on working on providing safer fire safety by removing some eucalyptus trees in sensitive locations like Esther Clark Park and other places. I just want to emphasize the importance of replanting these trees with more resistant native species, because despite the fact that they're eucalyptus trees, which are unwanted for certain reasons, they do provide habitat and also contribute to our canopy. So I just want to thank you very much for your work on that, and make sure you're thinking about replanting those trees with more naturally resilient native trees. Thank you.
Our next speaker is GMA.
Hi, hopefully you're hearing me. My name is David Siegel. I've been a Palo Alto resident for over 30 years. My kids went to school here, K through 12, and my wife worked in the school district. I've invested in our community, serving on the Palo Alto Little League board and as a coach there for 25 consecutive seasons. I was recently elected the president of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, and we boast about 1,400 members, well over half being Palo Alto residents. I spoke at the City Council retreat this past Saturday, highlighting how the Palo Alto Pickleball Club and the sport of pickleball addresses directly one of the council's top priorities of health, wellness, and belonging, also known as social infrastructure. If you don't know already, pickleball allows folks of all ages and ability levels through some structured events, but mainly through drop-in play from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. to find their peeps, so to speak, helping the physical, mental, and social well-being of the community through inclusion. As an organization, we view our role in the community as a steward of both the sport and the fabulous Mitchell Park courts in a public-private cooperative spirit. We will continue to work with the Parks and Recreation Department and this commission to best manage the explosive growth of over 25% annually for both the sport and our membership. This growth, however, is a two-edged sword. While it demonstrates how well the social infrastructure that surrounds pickleball is working, it has put tremendous strain on the capacity of our awesome courts at Mitchell Park. We look forward to helping this commission and the city to achieve the council's priority objective of health, wellness, and belonging in a variety of ways, including addressing the court capacity issues in a manner that has minimal budgetary impact and maximum benefit for the community. Finally, if you have not done so already, I strongly urge each and every one of you to stop by the courts at Mitchell Park and witness firsthand the magic that happens there every day. Thank you.
And our final speaker is Dashel Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dashel Leeds. I'm the conservation coordinator for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We received a letter alerting us that a large number of eucalyptus trees have been removed from Esther Clark Park, and that these removed trees were not replaced. We do understand the rationale behind the removal, and I'd like to echo Doria's comments earlier that these trees provided habitat and tree canopy cover and should be replaced with native plants and trees that do not pose the same fire risk. We are wondering, is there a plan to replace the removed trees, and will this plan be made public? Thanks for your time.
That concludes public comment on items not on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, thank you to our public speakers. Agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Comments from the commission. I did receive one comment about moving the election of chair and vice chair, and the spot it is on the agenda is to accommodate. We have some staff presentations, and so I think normally in the past, we've done it at the top of the meeting, but in order to accommodate that, we have it towards the end of the meeting, and we can certainly move it after the ad hoc committees and liaison updates even further in the meeting. if there's an interest from fellow commissioners.
I'll just comment that historically at the reorganization meeting, when a new chair and vice chair are elected, that happens as the first business item. I wouldn't want to see it pushed back further beyond the ad hocs. I don't think it takes that long, and I'd be generally in favor of keeping with that practice, but certainly go along with whatever the commission deems most appropriate.
Other thoughts from other commissioners? Okay, I'm sorry to break with tradition, but I'd like to just be mindful of staff time just because we do have some lengthy staff presentations. So we will leave it where it is, and I will take the blame for that, for breaking with tradition. It doesn't mean that we can't go back to the way it was in future meetings and be mindful of planning a little better in the future. Moving on to C, official reports with the department report.
Thank you, Chair Brown. We'll start off with Sarah.
Good evening, commissioners. While Christine's pulling up our departmental report, next slide, we're going to kick it off with upcoming special events. The flyer to your left is a brand new event, and we want you to come celebrate your love for family and community with the Palo Alto's first annual Heart and Harmony on Valentine's Day Dance, Friday, February 14th, hosted by the City Community Services Department. This dance is open to everyone of all ages and abilities. Enjoy an inclusive DJ, make Valentine's Day decorations, make memories with our photo booth, enjoy light refreshments, and dance the night away with your friends and neighbors. If you, all ages and abilities are welcome. If you or a family member require accommodations to participate, we encourage you to send an email to CSD, so Community Services Department, accommodations at cityofpaloalto.org, and our team will ensure an inclusive and enjoyable experience for everyone. You can also scan the QR code. We do want you to register through Civic Rec. This is free. It's going to be held at Mitchell Park Community Center from 5 to 7. And then kind of some save the dates to your right. We do have one more new event that we're highlighting around the world in a day, Cultural Festival. This will be held at Lucy Stern Community Center, Saturday, March 29th from 10 to 1. Something that's not on this slide deck, but I will just give a report. Please save the date for Earth Day event at the Art Center. It will be held Saturday, April 27th from 1 to 4, and then Mayfete Parade, which is on the top there. University Avenue and Heritage Park, Saturday, May 3rd from 10 to 1. Next slide. This is a really exciting item. We have an expanded Foothills Nature Preserve Library Pass. So the library and community services staff have partnered to improve and enhance the Foothills Nature Preserve Library Pass program. This expansion grants vehicle access from 1 day to a 2-week pass that is reservable through the library's online catalog. This exciting change improves access, encourages repeat visits, and comes with a newly branded and long-lasting pass, which was previously paper, and celebrates the outdoors. This is modeled after the Santa Clara County, or the California State Parks Pass program, and the city's program enhancements started earlier this month. So go check it out at the library. Next slide, please. So we invite you to share your feedback on adding a potential park restroom at Eleanor Party Park. The city is exploring that possibility of adding a new public restroom at Eleanor Party Park. Your input is essential in helping us understand community needs, preferences, and potential concerns. Results will help inform decision-making and ensure we prioritize accessibility, usability, and overall experience for park users. Should there be any interest in adding a restroom at Party Park, the city's capital improvement process would then require further community engagement, and staff would recommend this project in fiscal year 26 budget process with a possibility of design and installation for the following year in 27. Again, we just invite you to take the survey, and it is available until February 13th. And Steve has the rest.
Great, thank you, Sarah. All right, so what we have here is Fred Irely Towerwell Park. This is the second volunteer day that we had. On January 9th, 12 Salesforce volunteers worked with park staff to complete the native planting. And this included planting mulch in addition to the site. Park staff upgraded the irrigation. And our urban forestry department was a huge help in pruning the vegetation and planting several new trees over there. Next slide. The golf course. What we're looking at here is the pumps that are in a well. On January 14th, park staff assisted in removing a storm water pump for servicing. The pump here is a critical component to remove excess water from the golf course, which is essential during heavy rain periods. The pump was sent out to be refurbished and will be reinstalled next month. Next slide. Ramos Park. The playground renovation project started on January the 6th and is due to be completed by the end of February, early March. This includes the complete removal and installation of play structures and the amenities that you see in the pictures here. Next slide. This was a pretty good project. This is the Mitchell Dog renovation and expansion project. We are glad to say that we opened this today. The project is now complete, and basically the people can come and enjoy the park. This is a team effort and included the collaboration of Public Works, Urban Forestry, and other city staff. The project included 13 native trees, drainage installation. Basically, the new decomposed granite was put in with fencing, amenities, and the addition of a small dog park area for use. And that basically concludes the slideshow. Just on another note, just a few things to add. Boulware Park, the construction is approximately 85% complete, with completion anticipated in March. Originally completed for construction for in the fall. The project schedule was impacted by weather delays, underground utilities conflicts, additional soil removal needs, and damage to fencing and debris caused by the failing of 2 large eucalyptus trees. So remaining work includes asphalt pathways, playground surfacing, fencing, landscaping, and site cleanup. So that is moving forward as we speak. Golf updates. We continue to work with the regulatory agencies on the golf course mitigation. So that's still in progress. And then also we're continuing to work on drafting the term sheet for the long-term partnership with the First Tee. So that's still going on as well. And that concludes the report.
Thank you. Questions or comments from commissioners? Vice Chair Freeman?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the very detailed report. As for getting back to the First Tee, I know you're continuing to work on that. Are you getting close to an end date, or?
That's going to continue most likely over the next, probably into the fall. We're looking at closing that out, as soon as we can, but there's a lot of different topics that we're covering. Additional items that are going to come into play with that is the second deck study for the driving range and the reconfiguration of that area as well. So, but we are making progress.
So are they still engaged in active work, even though I guess the city doesn't have an active contract with them?
Oh,
Or
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Okay.
they're there weekly. Yes.
Okay.
Because remember, we have a short-term contract agreement with them for use.
Okay.
So we did establish that.
Okay. On as far as the Party Park and the survey, which opened, I guess, the middle of January, closing the 13th.
Yep.
Have you got a pretty good active response on that?
Yeah, so far we've had pretty good responses. We're mainly been tracking that through scans that we've got through the QR codes, but we are, anticipating more to come.
Okay, cool. And as lastly on Bulware, which you mentioned is 85% complete. So I assume that you'll have kind of a grand opening, letting the neighborhood know what's going on. And is that something you guys are already working on?
We've been in communication, with Public Works, who is managing the project, but we will definitely, I haven't asked them that specific question, but something this large, I would anticipate that is in the works.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Way?
Thanks, Chair Brown. Yeah, thanks for the great update, especially Sarah's aspect is very heartwarming in the climate that in the division. I know a lot of my federal employee friends in DC are going through a hard time, and we are having a new event, especially focus on love, focus on inclusivity, and award events. I really commend for that, Sarah, and wanting to know more how you are going to advertise those events and what sort of crowd you're expecting. And I really enjoy the MLK events and the Chinese New Year, but the Chinese New Year events is definitely oversubscribed. I'll talk about a couple of solutions later.
Oh, interesting. Happy to hear that. We, our recreation division will be working with all of the normal channels of outreach. So through Uplift, it's on our community calendar website. There are also flyers, so posting on social media, in addition to in the community centers. And I'm happy to also send those items out to you directly. So if you want to pass it along to your networks, we can also do that.
Yeah, definitely. Those events really make a difference in terms in this climate and how to bring inclusivity and global citizenship, etc., into our city. I'm really heartwarmed by that. I'd be happy to send to people around. Just make sure, I guess the kickoff event won't be oversubscribed like the Chinese New Year event. And yeah, I guess the concern, the safety is not there, but I'm really, really happy you're doing that. Thanks for the great work.
Yes, Commissioner Deng?
Thanks, Chair Brown. Thank you to Sarah and Steve and the Parks team for your incredible work this month. The Martin Luther King and the Lunar New Year events were truly fantastic. Well organized, engaging, and a wonderful reflection of our diverse community. I also want to commend the progress on the Kabbali bathroom. It's looking great and is a much needed improvement for everyone using the facility. On a separate note, I'd like to bring attention to a concern from the community. I've heard that some runners had their jackets stolen at the Kabbali track and field. So I hope the police can keep the parks team updated on the investigation and if there are any preventive measures we can explore. Thank you again for your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Greenfield?
Thank you. And thank you for the nice comprehensive staff report with slides to go along with it. It's great to see it. Great news on the continuing progress on Ramos Park upgrade and the Mitchell Park dog park expansion. Is there going to be a ribbon cutting for that?
We could definitely take a look into that.
I would defer to the dog park liaisons to see if that's something that the community would be interested in supporting. And the work at Coverly, great to see it coming along. Very interesting detour around the area, particularly while the fields were getting reseeded. Lots of plastic make people safe dividers. Thank you. Wanted to follow up on the question that was raised regarding the tree removals at Clerk Park. Is there a plan to replant remove trees at this point in time?
There is a plan for that. We're working with our urban forestry department. We're looking at sourcing out local native trees, specifically oaks and other varieties that were guaranteed or semi-guaranteed to survive in that location. What will come up into that is we want to find out, basically how many trees we can do in the first planting. We would do that in a series just to make sure that they are established correctly. And then we would, have a plan on watering. I know that some of the neighbors over there are interested in that as well. Work with volunteers as well, potentially. And then that would be in succession over the period of multiple years. And typically the planting, if we were going to do something like that, would be in the fall. So more to come on that one.
Great to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just a follow note. If there's more tree planting events, be happy to participate as well, especially like Tower Park, which is so close to me. And I'm really pleased you guys moving ahead, doing that in the spring and in the fall. Be happy to participate. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. And I also wanted to ask more about the expanded Foothills Nature Preserve Library Pass. I'm a little surprised to hear this because I know that the original policy update to include free passes was something that city council adopted. Was this a city council change or this is a staff decision? And I would have appreciated if this had been run by the Parks and Rec Commission in some way, if not the full commission, with either the Open Space Preserve liaisons or with the Foothills Nature Preserve stakeholder group. I'm kind of surprised just to hear about this in a meeting like this.
Thank you, Commissioner Greenfield. That was not our intention to have it a surprise. What we did is specifically Sarah and some of our other park rangers up at Foothills recognized that we could make some good operational changes. Sarah collaborated with the library. This is a lot of work on staff's behalf on both ends. And it was basically to streamline the process, provide, continuity, across the different library areas and to stay with the existing practices that we are currently doing within the pass. Sarah, do you want to expand on that?
This still aligns with what council's desires. It is just making operational efficiencies for the library as well as ranger staff. And I'm happy to, have more conversations with you if you have specific questions.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk more offline, but the part I'm curious about is the extension from a one-day pass to a two-week pass and the
Sure.
and the implications of that and how many passes are available. And
Yep, I have all that information and happy to provide it to the commission now or offline. What?
I'm interested in that as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, I'm interested too, and also want to follow up, Sarah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to be cognizant of everyone's time. So right now there's 75 passes that are available for checkout. However, this amount that we're rolling out is based off of a 2-week period that the library did analysis because 10 City Council directed that 10 library passes are able to be used per day. And so they took an average of what was used, and the library have 75 passes throughout their 5 libraries that are able to check these out. So each library, based on their operations, has passes available for checkout. And what was your other question, Commissioner Greenfield?
so there's Are they split up among the libraries evenly or?
No,
weighted?
based off of the higher demand. So
And-
some of the larger libraries have more.
So they're physical passes.
Correct. It's a checkout similar to the state parks pass. So it's modeled after that.
And will we be tracking the use of this at the entrance station?
Much easier to track. Yes. And I can talk to you more about the reasoning offline.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to join that meeting too, and also take up last year's thought, which I'm grateful that Commissioner Greenfield also supported about getting a shuttle reinstated for seniors and teens going to Foothill Park, and also the number of passes, the rationale behind it versus how we broadcast that, because I realize most residents don't even know previously the one-day pass existed. A majority of them have no idea. So yeah, take offline with you, Sarah. I'll follow up with both Commissioner Greenfield and you very soon. Thank you.
Will do.
Yeah, thank you. It's an improvement though. I'm really commend you're doing that. Thanks so much.
Is this in addition to the day passes or replacement of the day passes?
This is replacement, so no more paper as of February 1st. Right now, it's a hybrid, so those who have received a paper pass are able to use that until February 1st. We've done training with both the library staff as well as our open space. So there's been a lot of thought behind this process.
Okay, I don't know what paper pass is because I never really pulled the pass to go there. I have my annual pass that I paid for. But I'm not sure how the people who go there and get a 2-week pass, are they going to go every day for 2 weeks? And it's a little confusing to me. So I would appreciate a little more discussion at some point, not necessarily now. Just to understand it better.
Sure.
We can do a follow-up on that.
Or maybe we can cover it at the next Foothills Nature Preserve
Yeah,
stakeholder meeting.
Okay.
if you can add it on the agenda.
That Commissioner Kleinhaus and I would both be a part of. Thank you.
I had other questions. One was again related to the eucalyptus removal. When is the plan going to be available for the new plantings and the phases of new planting, and what is in the species list and maybe a map? What do you anticipate and when?
That's to be determined. Right now, we're in the beginning stages of determining, how we're going to go about doing that process with our urban forestry department. But I could estimate sometime probably, towards the end of summer, fall. We want to get that phase together prior to doing any more planting. Sarah had reminded me just a little bit ago that we had already started a few plants out there. So there are trees actually that have been planted out there.
And some are caged. We've partnered with Grassroots Ecology, so they have been assisting with that.
Okay. So it seems like there's a public person who's been writing to us about that. And so are you going to?
We can follow up with that person, absolutely.
Please, and let me also at least let us know what is happening. So maybe you can put it on one of your updates for the next few months as to follow up, so we don't just lose that thread and then, oh, it's October, too late, and who knows what's going on.
Absolutely.
So who's driving the replanting? Is this CSD or is it urban forestry?
It's a collaboration.
Okay.
So, but of course, it's the, supervising park ranger for Foothills who oversees the area. So it starts with him, and then we basically branch out from there and then make a plan collaboratively.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
You're welcome.
And where is the budget for this? I guess I saw in one of the items that we have later that there's budget for the removal of the eucalyptus, but I didn't see budget for replacement. So where is the budget coming from for the replacement?
The budget is actually, it's not too expensive on that, so we would take that out of our normal operating budget. We would absorb the cost.
is there a way that in the next time that you're having a project that involves removing a lot of trees, there is in that budget also the replacement cost?
Absolutely. We can definitely take a look
So
into that.
Please, because if you had a CEQA process for this, the CEQA process would include the mitigation, right? And the mitigation would be, okay, or potentially, just going by the guidelines of the tree plan. And it will say for each one that is removed, if it's an ordinance tree, you have to plant this many, or through mitigation. So this is, I understand there was urgency to removing eucalyptus. I get it. I've been in a lot of fire discussions in the past week and a half, quite a few of them at the state and locally. And it's very interesting to learn that really what we need is more community focus rather than removal of vegetation focus, but I won't get into that. I think we're coming to that in one of our next items. But I think we need, when there is a project that has impact, even if it doesn't have CEQA or anything else, the compensation should be folded into the project budget. So we know that it's going to happen, that the project is happening, here is what we're doing, here is how we mitigate for the damage, for the harm to the environment, whatever it is. Even when it's a good project, there are impacts. So this is one of those.
Great, thank you.
I have a question about the dog park, and I know it's a bit of a, it's nice to see the dog park open, but I guess it's kind of like high-end dog park in that it has all this granite and all the other facilities, but isn't it simpler to just put a fence and that's it for a dog park? I mean, it seems like a huge investment, a lot of time that we don't have a dog park. And, maybe sometimes it's muddy if we don't have all that upgraded facility, but the dogs like the mud. I mean, it's like, why do we have to have such a high scale, expensive, lengthy process to put a dog park that could just be a fence? I'm seriously asking this question.
So things that went into it from a thought process is that you have to do the substructure, meaning when you saw the large piles out there of the base rock that we put in and then decomposed granite on top, that's actually for the safety of the dogs. Because what we did is we pitched it so that it actually removes the water and surface drainage. It sheet flows into the drains. The compaction actually helps it so that you don't get a lot of damage and potholes and things of that nature, which the dogs with their feet, legs, and all that can fall into and potentially get injured. The grass areas over there, those are the areas that actually are pre-existing over there. They've got a variety out there that's very tolerant. And we just basically did some overseeing over there. So we left that exactly as is. And that's going to be an area where when it does get wet, it's going to get muddy and the dogs will have fun playing in it too, but it's going to be safe. So that was our goal, with safety.
And I'll just add, because I met with a lot of the dog park stakeholders in the development of this one, and just comments on other dog parks that are in town and in other cities, is that grass was a big request. It does take more maintenance from park staff, much more than the mulch, for example, at Pierce Park so we could kind of hear both sides. Some people like the bark, some people prefer the grass, some people really like the decomposed granite for their speedy dogs. My dog's not that fast, so he doesn't really need that. But I think that was taken into consideration. And I think the idea behind having the dog parks in different locations is to try to customize it to the main stakeholders, but not to have them all look necessarily as manicured. But that was the feedback for this park that I remember.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dang?
Yeah, I also want to add a comment about the dog park. I think having a good dog park is adding a potential for Palo Alto to host future pet parade, some good dog-related events in the future, like other cities such as Sunnyvale and Burlingame. I think it would be a great starting point for a pet parade. Thanks.
Cute idea. Commissioner Cribbs?
Yes, I actually think that I got all my questions and comments taken care of. I'm waiting for the end. So thank you for the report. First of all, it's nice to see the progress. Second of all, I hope that Canopy gets involved in the eucalyptus situation and the replanting of the native trees because they're such a great resource and I'm sure they're a partner. I'd like to hear more about the cost for the renovations for the remediations for the golf course, but we can wait until the CIP and gets discussed there. And I would be very much in favor of doing a ribbon cutting for the new dog park at Mitchell. So thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Just one question on the party survey. I know, and just looking at the survey, there is a space to capture sort of whether or not you live near the park. And if, when you do look at the results, you can filter that out. So you can sort of sort the results by stakeholders that live closer to the park. And then if you could just talk at a high level, if this were to proceed, what would the additional outreach effort, like steps be? Would it be additional surveys, community meetings? Just give a little bit more flavor on what that would entail.
So depending on the outcome of the survey, if it was deemed to move forward for that location, we would definitely work with basically our Public Works Department. And then we would host a series of community meetings so that we could do further outreach with that. And then depending on how the community meetings went with that, then it would be determined, how we could move forward. It would go into potential location of the restroom. They'd be able to take the feedback on things of, amenities of what they would like to see with that. And just to hear all the pros and cons and everything of that process.
So there would be plenty of sort of go, no-go decisions throughout
Yes.
the outreach process, depending on what the feedback the
Yes.
department's getting. Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Commissioner Greenfield?
Just a quick comment that Canopy typically doesn't get involved with open space plantings. Grassroots ecology would be involved with that along with the staff. Canopy focuses on the urban plantings or urban residential.
Any other comments? Great, thank you. We will move on to our first business item with the Office of Emergency Services radio equipment at Fire Station 8 in Foothills Nature Preserve.
Great. At this time, I'd like to introduce Andres Orozco, who was with our Emergency Services Coordinator for the next presentation.
So good evening, Chair Brown, Chair Freeman, Commissioners, Andres Orozco, Palo Alto OES. So we're going to talk about the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network Equipment Configuration Fire Station 8. Slide, please. So just to kind of give you a rundown of what's to be discussed here is explaining what the Arden system is, giving you an orientation of where Fire Station 8 is, explaining the existing equipment at Fire Station 8, and giving a rundown of the configuration that is proposed for Fire Station 8, as well as what radio frequency is leveraged for this platform. Slide, please. So essentially, the emergency radio data network is a redundancy for communications in the event that there is a earthquake or some kind of large scale event that takes away all of the communications for other departments. So we utilize this network as a contingency plan for disseminating damage assessment reports, having regular contact with other departments who may have some issues with their connectivity. And essentially, Palo Alto has a lot of these communication nodes that leverage the Arden platform. So a node is essentially it's a small dish with a radio to it and a sector antenna that receives data and gives out data. And so there's a bunch of nodes all over Palo Alto that work in the collective, and that makes the mesh. So if one goes down, there's contingencies with other ones that are in the surrounding areas. So they don't use encrypted data. So this is all unencrypted, which is why it's above board for the FCC. And that's the reason that we're able to use other people that are licensed. Amateur radio, as the ham radio operators, are licensed to use this system. Slide, please. So just to give you an orientation of where Fire Station 8 is, you can see Baronda Lake. You can see the entrance to the Foothills Preserve, and Fire Station 8 is located at the top of that map. Slide. So there currently is a tower at Fire Station 8 that has some communication equipment and cameras. So we have an alert wildfire camera up there. There is an existing Arden node there, but the amount of throughput that we would anticipate for an emergency level event would not be fulfilled by just this one node, which is why we are proposing this platform. Slide, please. So this is just an overview of what items are to be discussed here. There is a mobile ambulance here that has been repurposed. It's actually filled with servers that are able to help with the data traffic as it's coming back and forth through the Arden network. There's a mobile trailer, a 60-foot trailer that is proposed to be at a dip at next to the fire station that is not to exceed the height of the existing tower that's in Fire Station 8. Slide, please. Okay, so if you're looking at the overlay here, proposed location for the ambulance is going to be in the southwest side of Fire Station 8. Both the trailer and the ambulance are going to have fire abatement to remove on any kind of growth to make sure that it's safe. And there's going to be a 110 volt 20 amp run from Fire Station 8 to where the ambulance is to keep the system powered on. To emphasize the fact that this is mobile, so in the event that for some odd reason needs to be moved, it can be moved immediately. And it can be accessed remotely by our operators. So in the staff report that you received previously, we mentioned Dr. Iannucci, Bob Iannucci, MIT PhD. He works with USGS. He is one of the main proprietors of the administrators of this system, and we work in conjunction with him to ensure that the system is all running, and currently is running in Palo Alto. Slide, please. So this is just an informational diagram, obviously, giving you an explanation of what the flow of power and data. So we have the fire station, we have the 110 run to the ambulance, and then the tower trailer that's going to be on the other side of the fence near the Fire Station 8. All of the wiring is to be underground, and in order to mitigate any other issues. And there is a need for guide wires for the tower trailer, as there is guide wires on the existing tower at the hill and Fire Station 8. Slide. So the kind of frequencies that are used here are 5.8 gigahertz, which is comparable to what your Wi-Fi router is emitting. It's all safe. It doesn't affect bird migrations. And on a side note, Dr. Iannucci is an avid bird watcher, so it is something that we do take into consideration. Currently, the fire station uses ultra high frequency band and very high frequency band, and these are a lot stronger than what we would be utilizing with the Arden system. Slide, please. So pending your question, that's our initial proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Before we bring it to the commission, I'd like to open public comment on this item. If there are any public comment in the chambers, or if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand.
We have no request to speak.
All right, thank you. We'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for questions and comments. So we can begin with the open space liaisons. Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Thank you. The presentation doesn't show us what it's going to look like at the park. We don't have a picture of what the tower and the guy wires are going to look like. And I would like to see that as we discuss this issue, this project. I I agree that it's important to have redundancy and to have community emergency systems. That's really important in an area such as Foothills where there is a lot of chaparral, which is very, eventually it will light up. One of these days it will burn. So we need to have that service there. However, talking about, you said that the person is a birder, and I have some questions related to birds. So according to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I can look at it and find it, communication towers and such are responsible for 6.8 million birds per year in the US and Canada. And the main reasons they suggest are that there is lighting for the communication towers that attracts the birds because the birds migrate at night and the birds collide with both the antennas and the guy wires. So there are guidelines on how the US Fish and Wildlife has guidance for bird-friendly towers, and I strongly ask that you look at those and either avoid guide towers or use something to make them visible to birds. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure there's directions in the US Fish and Wildlife documents, or Esri had some documents as well. So there is information on how to do it, and also on what types of lighting to use. Sometimes red blinking lights are better than continuous lights, things like that. So that is one comment. There are two other smaller comments. One is that the staff report suggests that there will be CEQA. So I think it would be good to have the design either come back here or come to the ad hoc or the liaisons or some way to see what it actually looks like. And also in the analysis section of the staff report, it says that Dr. Lanucci will retain ownership and responsibility for maintaining and repositioning the equipment. What does repositioning mean?
If there is ever a need to move the equipment, he will be able to do that immediately. And he maintains the system. He's currently maintaining the way that it's working for the city of Palo Alto in general. So he'll be able to move the vehicle, service the vehicle as needed. That's essentially what we're talking about. Repositioning, it's for whatever reason, if CSC needs us to move it, if they're doing some kind of work, if it's in the way or if something that's happening, we can move it immediately.
So that would be like a temporary thing, not like, oh yeah, you told you it's going to be there, but actually we're going to move it over there.
No, if you need us to move it somewhere specifically, we will do that on request. The configuration that we propose is mainly because it's ideal for the communication platform.
Okay, so that's fine. Are you going to come back and show us what it's going to look like and how recommendations for bird safety are incorporated?
Of course, we will get all that information in mitigation and come back to you with that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Supporting Commissioner Kleinhaus, I agree that adding the redundancy and the general emergency service support is very important, and it's important to figure out a way to make this work. Questions I have are so you're repurposing an ambulance just as functioning basically as a trailer to house your servers.
Right. So Dr. Iannucci received this ambulance as a grant from, he teaches at Carnegie Mellon or taught at Carnegie Mellon. And so they imparted that in with him, and then he added the layout and the system, the servers.
And how many of these systems are there deployed? Are there any in the area already?
No, the mobile system, this would be the only one. Everything else that is in Palo Alto are the nodes.
But in the neighboring communities?
Well, Arden is used all over the Bay Area. So as far as Concord, you'll have these Arden nodes. So it's a system that is leveraged.
In terms of a mobile
mobile
site like this?
In Palo Alto, it's the only one.
Right. Are there other mobiles? Are there similar systems in the Bay Area anywhere else?
Not that we're aware of.
So this is the first one in the area. And is there any security concern for having basically a trailer sitting in the reserve with a bunch of presumably
No,
servers
not a security concern. I mean, there's fire engines that are on Fire Station 8 that are also exposed. So if they're not concerned, we think we're in good standing.
Thank you for clarifying that there's there'll be an AC line running there. I was wondering how the servers are getting powered. That sounds like a good, much better solution than batteries or something like that. That's all the questions I have at the moment.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the presentation and the very detailed document that covered it. I guess looking at this is just another form of a ham radio system, right? But an upscaled version, I believe.
Correct. That's right.
Okay. Which has been around for a long time. And I think Commissioner had asked about, Kleinhoff asked about whether or not these are being used in other areas. So this is in the event that all forms of other communications fail, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So it's really sort of if it's needed, it's needed. But I guess the other question would be, it's sort of an open environment, which means that anyone could jump on it or listen to what's going on and actually maybe not hack into the system, but communicate false information. What type of system have you put in place to prevent that from happening?
So as mentioned in the earlier part of the slide, it's on FCC communication. So in order for you to be able to get on this net, you have to go through the training and get the certification, which is why it's safe to assume that anybody that's getting on this net has that certification.
And you can very easily track who that is because everyone has to have a license, an FCC license to be able to communicate on that channel, correct?
Right, and if they get on this net, they have to talk about the call sign.
Okay.
Say this is, they'll give usually a 5-character call sign, and that is who, and that can be confirmed.
Okay. And my other question would be, have an environmental impact assessment been conducted to kind of ensure that the radio equipment installation does not disrupt local wildlife or will be an impact to that?
So since this is in the proposal phase, we are going to look into all of the particulars about the adherence to making sure that all the wildlife is taken care of and there are no issues.
Okay. Okay, and my last question would be, are there any plans to expand with similar emergency communications infrastructure to other key locations within Palo Alto? Or will it just be in the one location?
So in the foothills, this will be the only mobile location. Like I mentioned, all over like Mitchell Park Library has an Arden node. Chatting House will have an Arden node in it. City Hall has an Arden node. There's a few of them that are considered the backbone, that are the main connectivity sites, and then they'll propagate to other surrounding locations, also the MSE. So there are a few of them that are already in play, and then they pertain to smaller nodes that are located. And so some people within their homes, they can have a node. If, again, they have to be FCC licensed, but
yes, yeah. So this is really more of a mobile. I mean, the fact that it's mobile is the advantage here, and being able to move around if you had to.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Way.
Thanks, Chair Brown. Yeah, thanks, Andreas, for the great presentation and the detailed drawing as well. And I echo the environmental impact we might have, but it is very timely after we witnessed the horror of the fire in Los Angeles. So I'm wondering two things. One is a simple question. It's in the proposed phase. Is there a timeline we can know that could be approved and install it?
So as far as timeline goes, we've been working also in conjunction with Public Works. If there are certain requirements for, like, let's say, trenching to put the lines underground to mitigate any other additional issues, we're doing that process, CEQA, if needed, or in the event that we have to make it some kind of report, what have you, still looking into that. As far as timeline goes, it's based on approval. So not a particular timeline, but it isn't something that is within, like, 7 months. It could be a lot sooner than that, given approval.
Okay, yeah, just thinking the fire season, when the weather gets hotter, etc., and that'd be great to get approval and also environmental impact report done. Yeah, the other thing, yeah, similar to the whole map of Palo Alto versus where this is. So this is going to be just one location in relation to the number 8 fire station, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So yeah, it'd be great to look into where all our fire stations are currently and where this is and how easily it can be in the event of emergency happens. And they're really helpful to have a sense. Would there be any education done to people who might be able to qualify to use this and who will be part of the team for the emergency response? Or it's just all the police force?
Yeah, so this is, since it's amateur radio, that people all over Palo Alto are able to get on this net. So just as long as they're able to get this license for ham radio operator, they can effectively be able to get on this Wi-Fi. So it is for the public, and we will leverage this also with our community emergency response teams, which are all, people that live in the area that want to participate and help contribute in the event of a disaster.
So you will be planning education and licensing the community to have the license in event of the emergency.
So I'm going to take this opportunity also to introduce my supervisor, OES Chief Kenneth Duker. He'll actually give you a more in-depth idea of what's going on with that.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Chair Brown, Vice Chair Freeman, and Commissioners. My name is Ken Duker. I'm one of the 3 public safety chiefs in Palo Alto, and Andres Orozco works for me and with me. So just to clarify, the location of Fire Station 8 has, and I think Vice Chair Freeman hit on it a little bit, it has to do more with propagation and coverage. So there are 2 things going on. One, it is somewhat unique to have a mobile platform, as Commissioner Greenfield noted. There are pros and cons of that. The pro is that we could relocate it, but the reason we're putting it up at Fire Station 8 is more about relay link coverage to other sites in the Bay Area and less about serving a particular fire station. So that's point 1. Point 2, we'll be happy to be responding in more depth to some of the questions, but Commissioner Kleinhaus mentioned transmission towers. This is so short, it doesn't have any kind of lighting. There are no FAA obstruction requirements, so it's not an attractive nuisance to birds. As Andres mentioned, it's going to be no taller than the existing tower there. And the power output is actually going to be lower than any of the other equipment that's already existing at the site. So we don't reasonably foresee any consequences deleterious to wildlife, birds or otherwise up there, but we're happy to go into more depth on that. So I just wanted to clarify those points and happy to turn it back or answer any questions while I'm up here. If I could just add one more thing in the context of wildfire. So this is not just a ham hobby system. It is a backup. Our business is to develop backups, obviously, but our emergency services volunteer program is very robust. We have approximately 800 members, community emergency response team and so forth. Having data communications when there's no more cell phone, whether that's from a large wildfire, physical damage to infrastructure, overload of systems, is super important to us. That's how we here in the Emergency Operations Center are going to understand where to send our limited resources and where to do the most good for the most people as efficiently and equitably as possible. That's our mission. Thank you.
Just a question for either one of you. The compromises to the system, if it were not to be in this location or in a less optimal position, less optimal situation. It seems like this is the best for the network in order to ensure the coverage and the redundancy and public safety. So just speak to why it needs to be here a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a reason that the existing radio tower is there, was sited there, and it has to do with propagation and coverage. There are certainly other places we could look. But then we'd have to probably negotiate with Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space or another similar location, and it's easier to go this route. However, if you decide to dissuade us from it, we'll go to Plan B. Great.
That's helpful.
Great, thank you.
Other questions from Commissioner? And just to clarify the processes, Commissioner Day?
Yeah, just have a quick question. Andrews and Candice, do we have budget to cover this project if it's a new project?
Dr. Iannucci is, if it wasn't clear, donating this. He owns it. He's going to maintain it at his cost. The other costs are really quite low, like an extension cord. So we're covering that with existing budget. There's nothing out of line. So thanks for that question.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks to Dr. Iannucci.
Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Yeah, so can you tell me what type of CEQA document do you expect to have?
Well, I might defer to CSD staff, but this would go under the practical exception from CEQA. These are mobile units, so if you were to park one of our fire engines there, you wouldn't invoke CEQA either.
So basically, there is no CEQA process.
In my opinion, again, I'll defer to CSD staff, but there should be no CEQA. This is exempt as a project.
Okay, well, it is in the park and it is our purview to review that.
That's right.
So I'm still asking if we're going to see any further depictions of it, what it looks like.
We'd be happy to do that. I just think the administrative burden of a CEQA process, to be blunt, is not justified. So if you want to see some renderings, or we could even have it set up and take photos, I guarantee you it'll be
I'd like
pretty
to see
innocuous.
something, some renderings if possible. And guy wires are a problem, not only when it's large installations with lighting. Guy wires are a problem. So I don't know, if you need to have them, maybe put something on them that birds can see.
Commissioner, we can work in collaboration and we can set it up and take some pictures so you can have a good visual of it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think this would trigger CEQA, but we see more and more things that don't trigger CEQA, but have impacts, like I said before. So yeah, thanks.
Great.
Can I just ask staff to clarify the process? It's a discussion item only, so you're just seeking our feedback on how it relates to the park and suggestions for how to involve us going forward. But what are the other approval processes from today to it's in the park and operational?
I think the next steps will be that we'll take the feedback from the commission of what we've heard. We'll take the comments, find out any additional research that needs to be done as a result of that. And then we would come back for an action item with the information that was observed from that and report back to the commission.
Great. Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Greenfield?
Yeah,
Okay.
good. So is there a park improvement ordinance required for any of these changes?
I can check on that, but at this point, our initial thoughts were that there might, but I don't think so.
So why would you be, so is this something the city council will need to approve ultimately?
I can look into that.
Because I'm wondering why you'd be coming back to us with an action. So if it's something that city council needs to approve, then we can take an action to recommend approval. If it's a staff decision, it should just be a discussion item. Another question. So is there an air conditioning system or cooling in the ambulance to keep the servers temperate during the warm?
Luckily, it's not required. It's not required. We're not running an AI server, so it's
okay. So
It's a glorified Wi-Fi router setup for the most part.
Okay, so it's not,
Low BTUs. Yes, sir.
that's great to hear. So that sounds quiet.
Very quiet.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's probably no different than you drive around Palo Alto and you see a few of these already sticking out of people's houses. So I'm assuming that those are probably the folks that are sort of your backup. So thank you.
Precisely.
Great. So I believe we heard some comments and direction, and maybe if there is additional outreach that needs to be done, working with the open space liaisons specifically. But do you feel you have enough direction from the commission at this point?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will move on to our next business item. Fiscal year 2026 to 2030 Capital Improvement Program Plan Updates. This is a returning item, discussion only. So we'll begin with our staff presentation.
Yeah.
Question.
Chair, do you want to have the entire presentation first and then questions on different items? Or can we ask as they go if there's a specific item that we're interested in?
Just at a staff, like how their presentation is, would it be disruptive if we were to ask questions mid-presentation? Well, actually, let's go through the presentation. We'll do public comment, and then we'll get into the specific projects, if that's okay. All right, so we'll begin with the staff presentation.
Yes, that would be preferred.
Recording in progress.
All right, take it away, Alon.
Good evening, Chair Brown and Vice Chair Freeman and fellow members of the commission. Thank you for another opportunity to present to the commission. I am Lam Do, along with my colleagues, Steve Castillo and Sarah Rostelli. We will be furthering our discussion on CIPs. Tonight's presentation and discussion is to supplement the staff report and is not intended to be a replacement. It's intended to be a supplement. Next slide, please. This presentation is a follow-up to last month's CIP discussion with additional information on each CIP as requested by the commission. The commission requested direct links to each individual CIP, and that has been included in the staff report as seen in the multiple footnotes. The commission also requested a list of CIPs, descriptions, and a display of fiscal year for CIPs in the 5-year plan, which covers the fiscal years 2026 through 2030. However, the focus remains on the upcoming fiscal year 26. Next slide, please. We have a reminder of the CIP timeline. Back in November, staff began the process of planning for the next CIP cycle, 5-year cycle. And then last month, December, and this current month, staff submits our requests for proposed CIPs to the Office of Management Budget. And this is not just community services staff, but this is staff citywide in all departments. And then in next month, February and March, the Office of Management Budget will review all requests and make recommendations to the city manager. From there, the city manager in April will cull together a proposed 5-year CIP plan and present that proposal to the city council. Following sometime in April and May, the Planning and Transportation Commission will review each capital project that is proposed in the proposed plan. And their objective is to ensure that CIPs comply with the city's comprehensive plan. From there, the council tasks the Finance Committee to review all CIPs through a series of public budget hearings. And then lastly, in June is the full council's review and anticipated budget adoption for capital improvement projects. Just a reminder again is although it's a 5-year proposed plan, what council approves in their budget is really only for fiscal year 26, the next upcoming fiscal year. All the remaining 4 years are for planning purposes, but they're not approved for budget wise yet. Next slide. Due to the extensive number of CIPs, each one and its respective slide deck will be briefly touched upon. Afterwards, the presentation, Steve, Sarah, and I will gladly answer specific questions after the presentation per or for each inquiry that you may have. However, before we look at fiscal year 26, which is our focus, for context, I'd like to show the 25 CIPs that were currently adopted for fiscal year 25. And you have over the next 3 pages, CIPs ranging from athletic course resurfacing to Baylands Nature Preserve to Coverly Field restrooms. And if you could go next slide, please. We have additionally one listed alphabetically, open space lakes and ponds, Ramos Park improvements, and then we end with Stanford at Palo Alto Community Playing Fields turf replacement. Next slide. Moving on, we'll now take a look at the 23 projects that are preliminarily being proposed for next fiscal year 26. The same thing, this list is also alphabetical, and this is matches what's in the staff report. For this presentation, I'll also cover a brief description of each project as well. These 23 also range from a Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan to the eucalyptus tree removals, Foothills Nature Preserve dam seepage. Next slide. Projects such as Mitchell Park improvements, open space trails and amenities, and all the way through to Weary Park playground improvements. Next slide. And now within the, I'll go over each in the projects individually. Within the 23 projects, there are proposed for fiscal year 26, there are 9 in open space. This is the list of the 9. And on the next, along with the description of each on the next few slides, I'll also, each of the slides will also contain the approximate cost, which was also a request by the commission. Next slide, please. We'll start with the Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan. This is to develop a conservation plan looking at the native vegetation, wildlife habitat, and public access throughout the Baylands. And this project has been something that we've been working on for several years, and we hope to finish that in this upcoming fiscal year. After that, we have the Baylands levee repair for public safety access. This is restoration of a flood levee that exists near the Baylands Interpretive Center and perimeter of the airport levee. It has eroded over time, and so we would want to work towards restoring it at a higher width and higher height as well. Okay. We then have eucalyptus tree removal. This is removal of eucalyptus trees, which are intended to reduce vegetative fuel load. It's also throughout the city's nature preserves, Foothills, Pearson Rastradero, and Esther Clark. And the intent is to improve wildland fire safety. And then we have Foothills Nature Preserve, Rhonda Lake dock replacement. The dock itself has deteriorated and has aged. When we're looking at replacement for that and an assessment of how much replacement needs to be done, whether it's the deck, the ramps, the floats, and also perhaps the pilings based on the conditions. Next, we have Foothills Nature Preserve dam seepage. This is to look at and assess an ongoing seepage from the dam that we have to determine its source, determine its flow, and then evaluate potential remedial action. Following that, we also have Foothills Nature Preserve improvements. These improvements vary from infrastructure to also visitor safety. It includes design and permits for Los Trancos Valley Footbridge, looking at grade control structures along Buckeye Creek, parking improvement enhancements, new fencing, and also pedestrian pathways as well. We then have multi-use pathway surfacing repair. This is one of our annual ongoing CIP projects. It looks at repair and repaving of an off-road paved trail system consisting of 9 miles throughout the city. And this project is funded annually with an amount for 5 years, and then each additional year, as 1 year drops off, additional funding is added for an upcoming 5th year. We also have open space lakes and ponds maintenance. This also is an ongoing CIP that's annual. This one is to protect wildlife habitat, also provide recreational safety. And we also have a requirement through the State Division of Safety and Dams. And primarily this project removes non-native pond weeds and cattails. The last open space project for fiscal year 26 that's being proposed is open space trails and amenities. Another one of our ongoing annual projects. As our open space trails in our preserves take wear and tear, they also suffer erosion, sometimes storm damage. There is also a need to control aggressive plants. And then we also not just look at trails, but we also throughout our open space preserves look at amenities that need to be repaired as well. And those are covered through this ongoing annual CIP. Now, after the preceding 9 open space projects, there are 14 projects in parks, golf, and recreation. This is a list of 14 of those projects. And also this is mirrors what is in the staff report as well. Next slide, please. And I'll go through each of the 14 individually here. We have athletic courts resurfacing, also an annual CIP. We look at repairing courts, the various types, basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and also we have a few gathering bowls throughout the city in some of our parks. And so this looks at the needs, the repair needs, and or the full resurfacing needs of these courts. We have another ongoing CIP that helps us do repairs throughout the city parks. And this is the CIP is benches, signage, walkways, perimeter landscaping, and site amenities. As the title describes, these are the various amenities within various city parks throughout the city that this funds for repairs or restoration or full replacement. Next slide. We have a dog park installation and renovations. This is also an ongoing CIP. However, this one is funded every other year and not necessarily funded annually. This is intended to install dog parks or renovate existing dog parks. And it is something that we continually explore where we can and cannot or not able to put a dog park, even though the funding may be every other year. We haven't been necessarily been able to make use of the funds every other year. So what we've been doing is we call the money together. And when we're able to have a location that's either applicable for a new park or restoration of an existing park, we use multiple years fundings for that. We have a proposal to replace the synthetic turf at El Camino field. And this, the type of the turf replacement though is to be determined. As you're aware, the city is looking at a turf study to assess the pros and cons and weigh the difference between synthetic turf versus natural turf. So it is depending on the outcome of that study, which direction it will determine which direction will go for the El Camino field. Next slide, please.
We have a golf course net and artificial turf replacement for design and construction as well. This is to remove and replace the turf at the golf course's driving range. This project's timing is not really set in stone. This has several factors that it's dependent upon, including a long-term partnership with the First Tee of Silicon Valley. We also have golf course reconfiguration. This is for the mitigation monitoring of the golf course, and which during the renovation of the golf course, we expanded and enhanced wetlands. And so there is a requirement for mitigation monitoring of that. We have Johnson Park renovation, design and construction. This covers park elements, park amenities, and the playground, and resurfacing walkways, as well as fencing and improvements to the irrigation and the lighting in the park. We have a large project coming up as well. It's Mitchell Park improvements and design and construction. This covers multiple amenities, multiple park play equipment locations. We've got the playground along East Meadow Drive. We've got the water play element. We have covered wood walkway structure. We've got replacement of playgrounds and water play area fencing as well, and then rubberized surfacing to go along with those playgrounds as well. The plan is also to improve the irrigation and restore some of the turf within Mitchell Park as well. Okay, next slide. We have a park and open space. The next one we have is an ongoing CIP, and this covers park and open space emergency repairs. So these are unplanned or unanticipated needs for replacement or repair of park preserves and amenities. And it can vary from playgrounds to surfacing to wooden structures and site amenities, and for various reasons, either due to vandalism, a fire, or storm damage, blows down a fence, or structural failure that was unanticipated. So yeah. We have another ongoing CIP. This is park restroom installation. However, this one is one of similar to dog parks. It's funded every other year and not necessarily every year. And the installation of the park restrooms depends on when and where we've identified an appropriate location for the next park restroom installation. Okay. Next slide, please. We have Ramos Park improvements. This is to replace park playgrounds and site amenities, and along with some accessibility improvements at the park. This project possibly could finish earlier and may not make it into the 26 fiscal year. So we're crossing our fingers and hoping that we can get this project done before then. But if not, it is slated to be completed next fiscal year. We have for next fiscal year also Rinconado Pool Family Changing Room, design and construction. So this is for a gender neutral restroom to be used by families and or those with special needs, or have individuals who need require privacy space. So it'll be a restroom with a changing room as well. So we have Robles Park improvements. This, similar to Ramos, is also play equipment and resurfacing of playground structures. Robles Park also has a basketball court that needs some work and a concrete wall that we'll take care of as well. Okay. And then lastly, we finish off with Weary Park. Similar to most park renovations, it's a playground, some site amenities, benches, tables, receptacles, bicycle racks, and a drinking fountain. Now looking at beyond fiscal year 26, the commission also asked for projects through the 5-year plan, which would cover up to fiscal year 2030, with an identification of which planned fiscal year these projects would be in. So the following chart over the lists about 36 projects that are also mentioned in the staff report. And here you'll see that each of those projects also listed alphabetically, which fiscal year that they are planned for. She could take up, and so I'll give it a moment here for each of the slides here. And I believe the commission has also seen these slides and these slide decks previously when they were posted online. And now I'd like to move on, and we'll go into the CIPs that we've identified, but they're not currently in the 5-year plan. We have 7 project needs that have been identified. However, they're not ready to be a CIP proposal for various reasons. They can vary between they're not fully planned out yet, and or some of them require initial public funding before they can become a CIP plans. These include Bayland 10.5 acres, Buckeye Creek improvements, a comprehensive plan for the remaining preserves, Foothills and Pearson Rastadero and Esther Clark. We want to replace interpretive exhibits within the Foothills Nature Preserve Interpretive Center. We have a former ITT site that we need to address. And then also there is currently an effort to get a skate park in place with public funding and public fundraising as well. So with that, this concludes the presentation. As mentioned earlier, I apologize, for going through each one individually and briefly. However, understanding that there are going to be questions, we wanted to save this time for questions specific to a project or overall in general. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being responsive to the commission's request for more information and details.
Yes.
Before we have questions and comments, I do want to open it up for public comment. So if you're in chambers, please fill out a speaker card. And if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand.
We currently have 2 requests to speak.
Great.
Our first speaker is Sharon E., followed by Nancy K.
Hi, my name is Sharon Erickson. I'm a resident of Palo Alto who volunteers several days a week at Eleanor Party Park and lives on the other side of town. A year ago, several of us contacted you and began appearing before you to ask the Parks and Recreation Commission to recommend adding a restroom at Eleanor Party Park in the 2024-2025 budget. Later last spring, we advocated the same restroom in the budget in front of the City Council's Finance Committee and the City Council itself. Verbally, we were assured that the process would move forward, and we were hopeful that Eleanor Park restroom would be funded in the upcoming 2025-26 budget. Regrettably, it's still not listed as a proposed project. There's an urgent need, as we've said many times before, for a restroom at this location. It's a large and very active community park that meets your park's master plan guidelines for installing a restroom. The nearest public restroom is more than half a mile away from the park. A community survey is underway, but it's our understanding this is a prefab installation. So we please would ask you again to recommend it be added to the 2025-26 capital budget and installed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nancy K.
Hello, I'm Nancy Kawakita, and I've spoken to you before, and it's around the Party Park bathroom. I appreciate your support, council members' support of the party bathroom or restroom. I would like, and I support of the city and Steve and the group there. I would like the Parks Commission to prioritize the Party Park restroom and funding for fiscal year 2026. As Sharon said, and as we have a group here supporting it, it's urgently needed. I would also like to understand, Sarah had mentioned in order to to make sure we do have the funding, there are next steps, and that we'd like to know what those steps are, because the survey will be done in mid-February, and we want to make sure that it gets into the budget for May for the Finance Committee, et cetera. And then the last thing is I would like the city to identify the park for 2028, because it sounds like for the restroom funded in the CIP, because since it takes 3 years to get this process from beginning to end, we want to make sure that we get the funding and the installation for the 2028 restroom identified. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Bringing it back to the commission for questions and comments. Commissioner Cripps.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about when you say the dollar amount and then it says for 5 years, and then it says and additional money if necessary. I think I've got that language right. So does that mean that we have 5 years worth? Or does it mean that it's the initial amount every year? So I think there's a better example.
Yes. I believe you're referring to, oops,
There were a bunch of them in there.
may I share permission?
So just start with the one, the athletic courts.
Yes, I just lost my share screen. Once I regain it, I'll go to that slide here. Thank you. Okay. Can you go up? Okay. If I can share. I believe it's working now. So, you are referring to, for example, let's look at number 8 here, open space lakes and ponds maintenance. It's in the 5 years, it's about $292,000, and then additional annually. So what will happen is, let's just say in year 1, we will use a part of that 5-year funding of $292,000, and then that funding will drop off. In year 6, which is the subsequent year, additional funding will be added. We will then use year 2's funding, and it will drop off. And then in year 7, additional funding will be added. So there's always a 5-year window of funding.
So, but you're not going to use 292,000 every year.
That's correct.
That was what I was hoping.
This is looking at the 5 years.
Okay, I think I've got it now. Could you go to the next one, number 9?
Yes.
And so that goes for 5 years, and then additionally, there's additional money. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That was my first question, but I'll let other people go by.
Okay. Commissioner Wei.
Thanks, Chair Brown. Thanks, Lam, for the great presentation and such improvement in terms of detail and clarity since last time we saw it. My one question is about the synthetic turf or artificial turf. I'm wondering if you're aware in the Santa Clara County, there's a voting going on to ban all the artificial turf. The question is, do we have enough impact data to show that the artificial turf can cause cancer, etc.? I read quite a bit of that, and I have to be, helping 10 years ago of contractors doing turfs, etc. And I do feel the necessity to advocate more safer, environmental friendly turf. Maybe the Santa Clara County also have an impact report. We can leverage their data, etc. I'm wondering where is that the turf replacement decided, and what's the timeline we're going to decide what type of turf we're using?
So Commissioner Wei, this is Steve. So along those lines, we've been in communications and collaboration with the county. We have, they basically reported out today on their report, and they have a lot of findings basically on the conditions of what the synthetic turf versus natural turf has for health conditions. The study's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
And we will be able to utilize the data that they have conducted for the health concerns that you have shared with us today to incorporate into a report that will be coming back to our council members at a later date to take a look at those exact items.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Great
You're welcome.
answer. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Steve, could you comment further on the study that Palo Alto has recently, City Council has recently authorized, and the Santa Clara County, or what the status of that, and Santa Clara County's report had referenced that, as well as some things in Palo Alto's which were accurate and some maybe which weren't accurate.
So Santa Clara County had done a very extensive report on that one for a study, looked into the different types of synthetic grass types, everything from different infills to PFAS to organic infills to things where they had basically synthetic turf only with no infill, presented that. And so those are some of the items that we will be incorporating and using some of the data that they have done the time to gather over the last year. We will also be taking a look at other cities. So, Sunnyvale is also looking into that, so we'll be reaching out to them. We haven't done that yet, but we will. The other part that we're looking at too is to take a look at the information that we have in-house on how our fields are currently used, meaning we have the 4 fields, which 2 are at Stanford Mayfield. The other one is over at El Camino, and the other one is over at Coverly. So we operate the 4 fields, and we'll be working and gathering community input on that one as well, and taking a look at the hours of use of when the athletic leagues use it, how it's been used versus the natural fields, and comparing those data points to produce a report so that we can bring back to council so that we can provide a recommendation for council.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. The usage is very important. I know the Santa Clara County report estimated that grass usage or synthetic turf usage was about 3.5 times the capacity of natural grass.
That's correct, yes.
I wonder, a similar question, I wonder there's anything we can leverage in terms of data, et cetera. I know California is different in terms, our sibling city, what they do over there, and also sister city globally, which I'm on board, and UD's also there too, whether we can help you get data, I'd be happy to reach out. For my extended time in England last summer for 2 months, I observed Dave revert back to, say, grass lawn tennis instead of using synthetic courts. And there seem to be movement, leave the park going natural wild instead of over trimming it, etc. So there seem to be a movement in Europe of letting nature take its own course and using more nature material. I'm aware of the water shortage in California and etc. Be happy to make connections to bring those data globally through our sister city or sibling city too, should you need it.
Great, thank you very much. That's appreciated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
There was a number 6 out of the open space. Foothill Nature Preserve improvements. include design and permitting for Los Trancos Valley Footbridge. Where is Los Trancos Valley Footbridge?
I believe that's the one which is directly in front of the interpreter center.
Oh, that's the one that, okay. And, you know, we mentioned this before, this is an inexpensive project, and we did not include the Wild Horse Valley and Los Trancos Creek restoration in this.
Correct.
And it seems like that would be something that you want to do at the same time.
Well, we'd have to really take a look and try to find grant funding or other sources. I know from, I appreciate that you brought that up last time, and it gave me a little bit of time to do a little bit further research into that. And I know that that was looking at the 3 different phases, which is the 7.7 acres, and then the other 2 Wild Horse, and then the upper portion. And I believe the initial study that was done estimated about $12 million to have that renovation work done for the creek at that time, which was quite a few years ago on that study. And I would anticipate that that's probably gone up significantly since that point, just with time. So that's something that we can definitely look into. It is an important item and it's not forgotten. It basically would just have to take a little bit more resources to get us there to that point.
So how do you prioritize something like that then when you know it's very costly and you don't have the budget for it and you probably need grant money for it, but you also have, I mean, the city could decide to do it, right? It's a matter of priorities.
Well, and staff resources. You'd have to have somebody, I know that we did one in the East Bay and that was a $16 million project and that took an incredible amount of staff time and staff members, of which we do not have currently here, to accomplish that project. And that was over the period of about 10 years, I'd say, plus. So I agree with you, it is prioritization, but it's also taking a look into it on how we would accomplish that with the means that we have available.
This can get money from the water district and they have money for things like that. You could look into that. Cupertino, when they did their Blackberry Farm project, they hired a consultant to manage a project. And she did a fabulous job organizing everything. So she wasn't really staff, but she was the project manager and she took it from design to completion. So, and through CEQA and everything. So that's something you can consider.
Thank you for that.
There's something else, but maybe somebody else can go and then I'll come back to the other thing, which I can't find right now.
Okay, we'll come around. I just have a quick question, just if you could give a brief overview on sort of the approach for things like dog parks and restrooms that are not necessarily specific to a location versus a specific park identified for improvements and how that works in the CIP, just so that we all understand the process and the flexibility that allows sort of that approach that's used.
There is a process that it starts with something that's exploratory internally. And then from there, we do some initial outreach to the community based on what we're hearing as needs in the community. We also would need to go through a formal outreach process, of which, using as an example, the Eleanor Party Park and restrooms, that is going through a survey process. And then from there, based on the results, we would go back, depending on the timing as well. In the past, we've gone back to the commission and discussed results with the commission. And then we go through, once we have a determination made, if a location is appropriate, we look at the design, the engineering and the cost and the budgeting. And then from there, becomes a project that's managed not as its standalone project. It would fall under one of those 2 categories, such as examples you brought up, dog park installation and/or park restroom installation. We don't have individual CIPs based on location. It's more, it falls under one of those two CIPs. And then it gets project managed and it gets installed.
And the benefits of that are that it allows it to be at a regular cadence or schedule without having the specifics identified and being responsive to the needs. Is that the?
That's correct. There's that benefit that you just mentioned. There's also the benefit of allowing us time to go through the process. They're funded every other year, but we also have the ability to cull in a year that we don't use the funding to cull that funding and carry it forward, or excuse me, the better term is to reappropriate it. So the funding can be, multiple years fundings can be used for a project. And a good example of that right now is the Mitchell Park expansion of the dog park. That is using funding from multiple years.
All right, that's very helpful. Vice Chair Freeman.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming back and clarifying a lot of information that we had asked about last time. So I think the question is, with so many capital improvement projects proposed for 25 and for fiscal year 25 and 26, what, think about, I guess, like to know kind of what the criteria is you're using to prioritize those projects, and then how does the community input factor into these? I'm thinking about like Eleanor Party Park, for instance. Say the response on the survey comes back and it's overwhelming. It's like, say you get 60 to 70% response and everyone's totally in favor of putting a restroom there. And that's something that, it's been ongoing really for about 6-7 years. Why would that not be something that would be sort of pushed up the queue to fulfill a request that's being made? I mean, if you're saying it's going to be 28, in 2028 or 2029, that sort of negates, I think, the survey response that you've collected in 2025. So kind of give me a feel for that.
If you'd allow me to respond overall for CIPs in general, which is how you started the question, and then specifically get into park restrooms. Overall, in general, a CIP has thresholds that it has to meet in order to become a CIP proposal, as opposed to being an operating budget repair need. So that threshold starts at 50,000 or more. And then after that threshold, there are various factors that are looked at in consideration of whether or not it becomes a CIP. There's health and safety needs. There is a regulatory needs. There are also council priority based on which each year our council makes their own priority. So it could be something that's environmental, that's a priority that the city wants to look at. It could be something that's housing related that the city wants to look at. And so throughout all city departments follow these guidelines. There's another factor that plays into how CIPs get proposed and or prioritized, and it's staff bandwidth. I think you're quite aware, in the past, this has been an issue for us getting projects done and or having to push projects out. We haven't had a full bandwidth between the community service department and public works engineering department. The two of us we're staff that wear many hats. And so these various factors from, threshold to regulatory to health and safety to council priority to staff bandwidth dictate what CIPs get proposed and how they get prioritized. Commission has input as well. And then now to look at specifically Eleanor Party Park.
If you want, maybe I can just read something. I think since we're going back to Eleanor Party, I can reiterate that should there be interest in adding a restroom at Party Park, the city's capital improvement process would require further community engagement, and staff would recommend this project specifically for fiscal year 26 budget process, with the possibility of design and installation the following year. So meaning that it's funded. And then something we touched on last meeting was that we've also been through this process already for Mitchell Park restrooms. So that has completed and the funding is there this year. And so that the part that still needs to take place is the community engagement, the purchase then of the restroom, if that's the
Yeah,
case.
it would go community engagement. Then once we get the go-ahead to move forward, then it would go and we would work with the Public Works Department on their design engineering. And then, so then the restroom would have to be designed, right location.
Which you already have a template for, right?
We have
Because it
a
wouldn't be
part,
any different than any of the other restrooms, I presume?
they do vary depending on the needs, like Mitchell Park will be different, yes. And so you have to take a look at what the needs are for the park and design it, because even though it is prefabricated, it's going to have to be designed for the site itself.
Right.
So it has to go through a design phase. You have to find out where your utility is, where you're going to hook up for the gas, for the water and electric and all that. Then once you get that, then you have to go through the procurement phase. Then you have to go through the ordering phase, which can be a 6-month lead time at least on some of these, depending on, when we get that done. Then basically, then you would work it out from a time slot on when we could break ground. You'd have to go out for bid to see who can install the restroom once we order it up, and then go through the process of managing the project. So it's a lengthy process. It's not just real simple and quick.
So it could be within a 2-year span.
If all the stars align, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Could you clarify again the status of the Mitchell Park restroom? I assume this is the magical upgraded facilities near the Magical Bridge area.
So we've been in discussions with Public Works Engineering, and that is the next one up for that. We're going to hit the design phase coming up. Right now on that one, there are a few, limitations on that depending on staffing at this point. Once we, get through that, then we're going to engage within the design phase on that and get that going. But that is the next one on the process.
In San Jose, they have like approved ADU. All you have to do is say which model and it comes and they put it in your backyard. Can't you like choose 2 versions of bathrooms that can be installed tomorrow? I mean, it seems like a really long process.
We do have, the style, and they do come prefabricated, yes. But you would also want to match what's existing there, potentially roof lines, partial design wise. And then you have to design it for the needs of the community of who will be utilizing that restroom as well. As you know, Mitchell Park is right near Magical Bridge. And so you would want to make sure that all users of the park can accommodate that. So yes, it is a prefab, and yes, the hard parts are done, but then it's just getting through those last parts and then the procurement phase of that.
Could I just speak something about the bathrooms or the restrooms? I mean, I think we're all really frustrated. I'm sure the staff is very frustrated as well. And yet to listen to a 2 and a 3 and a 4-year process, I'm thinking about what if we had a disaster, and we hope that we won't, but does FEMA take 4 years to come in and build? I mean, there has to be some way that we can figure out how to make this go faster. And I mean, you guys are the experts, but it seems like that it should be easier. And
Doesn't appear on the surface to be complicated. I'm just,
well,
I mean,
we work on a limited staffing model here in Palo Alto. And when you lose key members of staff, which I believe happened recently within Public Works Engineering, that put them in a position where they have to now hire a brand new position, which was a key factor to how we get things done here. And being that position is now vacant, that's going to take some time to hire, which then puts everything in line like dominoes. It has a domino effect. When you lose one key position, it has that effect. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now.
I'm just somewhat concerned that, we're getting into community involvement, listening, still talking about Eleanor Party Park, getting community involvement, but even after you get that feedback, there's a lengthy process that takes place there. I think people need to know what that process is, and maybe that's on the queue, that when you finish the survey and you get the results, then there'll be a feedback back to the community as to what a projected timeline might be, I suppose.
Correct, but again, that is all based upon budget and it's based upon staff capacity.
Right.
And right now, the staff capacity is a limiting factor.
And I think that I think people need to know that. And,
Okay.
you know, I think full transparency.
Oh,
probably will
absolutely,
buy you
yes.
a lot of goodwill, so.
So this is something that just happened recently.
Yeah.
So we're now dealing with that on our end.
Thank you.
I think putting the staff capacity aside, these are not programmatic changes that we're talking about. Capital improvement projects are big, mostly physical projects. You can't beta test a bathroom. I mean, you could put a porta potty out there, but it's not going to be the same. We're talking about real structural changes to facilities in town. And so not putting the cart before the horse. I know we've heard public comment targeted coming to us and coming to other bodies, but doing a well-done survey, making sure that that's not the only point of contact with the immediate stakeholders that are involved, and really making sure that we hear from everybody and allow them the opportunity. I know that the people that have been involved in this conversation from the beginning can be frustrated, but there are some people that are walking into this conversation brand new and they may feel blindsided. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the process, while it can be slow and that there are hiccups with staff and public bidding requirements and all of those things that go into the quote unquote red tape. I think that what is good about this process is that it allows that robust community outreach and time for people that are busy and that aren't paying attention and aren't coming to our meetings every month, the opportunity to weigh in on something that directly affects their neighborhood, their families, their children. So I am strongly in support of making sure that flexibility for things like the dog parks and the restrooms and is maintained and going forward. And I think that's something that is good about the length of time for this process.
And thank you, Commissioner. And just to, chime in on that as well, I'd just like to, reemphasize the great work that Public Works Engineering and CSD, even before I got here, had done by getting almost 4 restrooms in, which is unheard of in the last 2 years. Because we had Coverly that's going in right now. They're just waiting on the final phases of that. We had also Rinconada that just went in. Ramos was the other one. And then the new one that's going to be opening up at Boulware. So that's 4 restrooms. I think that's the most that's been here in probably 15 years. So just to remind that it's been very active.
It's great. It is exciting for that to happen. I don't want to temper your enthusiasm too much, but there had been a long delay and a long backlog, which led to the waterfall finally happening. So it was a difficult process, but I appreciate what Chair Brown said in terms of setting expectations and understanding the process. Yeah. Further pivoting back to the budget that you referenced which is really what we're talking about with CIP. Can you clarify? I'm trying to understand. We have restrooms on target for FY 26, 28, and 30. And I'm trying to understand how Mitchell Park it sounds like we're kind of working to move forward potentially with both Mitchell Park and Pardee Park, although which is not a foregone conclusion because that has historically been a difficult site and it's not a consensus site. So we need to do go through the proper steps to see if we're going to move forward on that. But are we potentially moving forward with both these restrooms on a similar timeline?
We would do Mitchell first, and then if Pardee is chosen as the second one, we would do that one directly afterwards. And the intent is to keep these moving.
And by directly afterwards, does that mean that Pardee would need to wait for FY 28 funding?
No. That would be if it goes through, that would be funded through fiscal year 26.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Typically, we've done a restroom every other year, and we've done a dog park every other year, and the budget is funded basically one each year. So we have potential budget capacity in the 26 CIP for 2 restrooms.
For 1 restroom in 26. It's all, the other one has already been approved.
Mitchell Park's already been approved? No.
That's my understanding.
But has it already been, but the budgeting?
Correct. The budgeting we are putting in right now for fiscal year 26 for one restroom.
For Mitchell Park or
for which, for potentially Pardee.
Okay, so the budgeting's already been put in for Mitchell Park.
Correct.
And so that's a carryover budget?
Yes.
Okay, that's what wasn't clear. Okay, so while we're on this subject of the every other year, I did notice in the chart, the 5-year plan, both restrooms and dog parks have X's for 26, 28, and 30. Historically, they've been every other year. Is that because one slipped and they got out of sync, or do we need? Are we okay with this? It sounds like more of a staff.
Lom, I believe you have the history on this one.
Thank you, Steve. Commissioner Greenfield, you're correct. In the past, every other year per project, and funding was on alternating years between the two projects. The city has undergone some budget constraints in the past couple of years. So within the past couple of years, there was a year where we were asked to suspend funding. And so that threw off the syncing of every other year and alternating years of the two projects. That has resulted now in that both those projects are funded still in every other year. However, they're also in the same fiscal year.
And do the buckets get properly filled up with the annual funding? Because I thought that was the whole point of having them offset. So in other words, if one of them slips a year, would there be a need for the other one to slip a year as well?
The funding cycle versus the installation and construction cycle do not necessarily need to mirror each other. The funding is not lost when we're not able to install in the planned timeline. What staff has been doing is we've been asking our Office of Management budget to reappropriate the funds so the funds stay in place.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm not quite understanding how it works. If the budget was on hold for a year, you're saying that the money's still there, it just doesn't get spent that year, or I mean,
there was 1 year that in which the funding did not occur because of budget constraints in the city, and so it was delayed by a year. So perhaps that's a better way of saying it. If I misdescribed it, I think a better way of saying it is there was a year where one of the CIPs had its funding delayed, so it moved into a future year funding, which pushed everything out.
Right.
And it also made it coincide with the other
I appreciate
CIP.
that. You're clear. What I'm not understanding is why both restrooms and dog parks wouldn't both slip a year. Say there's $400,000 annual funding coming in. 1 year is for dog parks, 1 year is for restrooms. If dog parks doesn't get it for 1 year, and it's going to be delayed a year, doesn't that mean that restrooms would be delayed the following year?
The budgeting is not always mirrored for every project doesn't mirror each other. I don't recall the exact circumstances. It may have been, and this, like I said, I don't recall the exact circumstance. It may have been that one of the two projects had money that was already from prior years that wasn't spent yet, and so it was viewed that additional funding was not needed. So it's not because that if you apply it to one of the two CIPs that you need to apply that same thought to the other CIP.
Okay, because I thought these CIPs were funded by building fees and park fees.
There is a mixture of development impact fees and a mixture of some general fund fees in there as well. General fund funding, excuse me.
So you're saying it's okay? Well, if it's okay, it's okay, but I still don't understand.
I think we're okay.
Excellent. I have a few other things, if I may continue. Thank you for returning with a presentation, and the new format is really appreciated. It's much clearer. It takes longer to go over, but I think actually hearing all the details is really worthwhile. It's great. There's a lot to be excited about and to talk about the projects that we're having funding for. And similarly, it's great to see, as previously, it was great to see the list of things that are being funded or that were completed from last year. So thank you. Kind of touching on something that Commissioner Cribbs had mentioned in terms of the budget amount that's included in there. I think it would be helpful to extend that just a little bit more in the future, where if you could include the dollar amount that applies to the year coming up under review, that would be helpful. And then if there's an aggregate 5-year funding number, include that separately and just clarify what they are. And it's confusing on some things like the BCCP funding, that the dollar amount says like 438K. But that's actually the aggregate dollar amount for the entire CIP. And if you look in the detail of the item, there's only 48K left for the next year coming up, or the next 5 years, because the rest of it's already been spent. So I think it's misleading to show dollar amounts that are already been spent.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Further on the BCCP, I see that it's only funded through FY26. My sense is that additional funding is going to be needed in further years to tie this project off properly. I think this is something that we can talk about further in the ad hoc, but I would encourage you to project further expenditures on that. Regarding Bixby Park completion, just real casually, completion really doesn't sound like the right word, like a park's ever completed. And I know it's a planned improvements that kind of always been planned all along, but I think perhaps changing the CIP name, if it doesn't create a lot of waves, just Bixby Park planned improvements or something like that, could be an improvement. Regarding the restrooms coming up, the 3 restrooms to be replaced at Foothills Nature Preserve, great to see it's there. Certainly, it's sorely in need. So the plan is for 1 restroom to be included, replaced in 27, 28, and 29. And I know this is further down the road, but what I just wanted to mention is the restroom that's in Orchard Glen picnic area, the stone structure. If I understand correctly, the plan would be to demolish that and replace that with a prefab restroom. And I'm hoping that we could have another potential alternative, because there's going to be, I expect, a significant community comment on that.
That would definitely go through a community review process. I mean, something that is that, how do you want to say, ingrained into the site with the historical. We would want to take a look at that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it would be much more expensive to be able to maintain and reuse the existing restroom, but I think it's a worthwhile project that the community would support.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's an automatic given that's going to be torn down.
Then maybe we should update the wording in the CIP, because that's the impression I got from it.
I'd like to add to support that. I think the building there and also the one by the entrance to the park, they're beautiful buildings and they really merge into the environment. And I would really not want to see them replaced with a prefab or something. And so that really needs to be considered very, very carefully and hopefully preserve them.
Thanks. The Mitchell Park updates coming up. The turf restoration work that's part of the CIP, is that more significant than the typical closure and reseeding that happens annually at the Mitchell Park fields?
Typically we'd have to take a look at the site, and each time that we go through, when we take a look for the turf restoration, that's going to be potentially further down the line. What we're looking at right now is mainly the splash zone. We're looking at the playgrounds and everything for this phase. We do an annual renovation out there, So if we were to do a major overhaul with the turf at this point, it's in pretty good condition. It would have to include all of the looping of the irrigation, and that's at the time that we would hit that one.
I'm asking because the CIP is just for FY '26 and turf restoration was mentioned as part of it. So I'm trying to understand what that means.
Right now, that would be for a one down the line. And, it's not going to be in 26, it's going to be down the line.
So then we should add an additional year projection in for that CIP item.
Noted.
Okay. And then as far as the redo of the water play area, is that will that basically be a replacement of what currently exists, or is it be something different, or is there a design phase with community input?
It would be in kind.
Okay, so it's just
redoing the splash zone area in kind.
In something similar to what currently exists.
Yep.
Okay. One last comment. Lom, the threshold for CIPs, I thought that was a 50K minimum threshold.
That is correct.
Okay, I think maybe I heard something different.
I heard 30 as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Thank you. So some of what I had is covered, but I have another question about the Mitchell Park improvements. Do you check any specifications about the materials used? Like if there's PFAS or any other toxic materials in them? Like how do you choose which kind of plastic or rubber or material that's not natural to use in a children play area?
Can I suggest that this is not necessarily pertinent to the CIP prioritization discussion? And it's a very valid point, and I think it's worth talking about as a commission, but maybe we can do it offline or ask them to bring it back in a department report. I mean, or if you're connecting it to the prioritization of Mitchell Park, is that where you're going with that?
We're hearing a lot of concern, right? There are concerns about plastic turf. This isn't all that different. There's a lot of synthetic materials that we use. And so I have a question about how they're selected. I understand there's going to be a study, or the stuff is going to look at artificial turf. Are you looking also at other materials that are synthetic?
I don't have an answer for that at this point on how it's been done in the past, but that's something that we can look at in the future.
Okay.
I'm happy to take this offline with you, Steve, and Commissioner Kleinhaus. Yeah, I have had a client who actually, family, who were doing synthetic turfs, which I had a lot of doubt. Yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that. And the damage, and both in terms of environmental impact versus children's breathing those material is devastating. Yeah,
Great.
let's set a separate meeting, Commissioner Kleinhaus with Steve on that.
We can do that.
Commissioner Cribbs?
Yes, could you go back to the part about the golf course? I had just two questions. One about the partnership with the First Tee, and that was there was something dependent upon that partnership. And the other one was the mitigation funding. How is that going to be used, and is that going to be enough? And are we going to be then done with the golf course mitigation? So two different questions.
Thank you for your questions, Commissioner. The golf course construction, golf course net artificial turf replacement is a project that, absent of a partnership, the city operates the driving range, and so that's eventually going to be a need. However, with the potential long-term partnership with the First Tee, it impacts the adjacent youth practice area, which they are desiring to use, which would share the same netting on one side of the driving range. So their proposal includes funding sources as well in order to prepare that youth practice area to make it appropriate for their use. And the timing of their project and their proposal and the long-term partnership agreement impacts when the timing will be for the city's replacement of the driving range overall.
I see, I understand. Thank you.
In regards to your second question about the mitigation monitoring and is this amount enough? And what the obligation is. The obligation is for us to do mitigation monitoring for 5 years. Whether or not this amount is enough, we don't know at this point. We are in discussions with the regulatory board to determine what they would like to see out of the mitigation monitoring. And so if this is not enough, we plan on funding through a request in future fiscal years.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, just one last, going back to golf, and you mentioned here the removal and replacement of the golf course synthetic turf. I guess depending on what we come back with as a study, that would affect all synthetic fields throughout the.
That's yet to be determined. Our basically direction and guidance was to take a look at city playing fields.
Playing fields, okay.
On the list of CIPs that to consider for the future, is it appropriate to add wellness center to the list? Or is that too much?
Yeah, on that one, I think that's in its own kind of direction at this point.
Okay. And then I didn't know if the Foothills Nature Preserve Interpretive Trail upgrade would be something to add. It's something that had been maintained in the past by the Friends of Foothills Park organization, which is kind of aged out.
We can engage on our next meeting with that one as well.
I think that's the Toyon Trail.
Toyon, okay. Thank you.
Okay. In general, I know we saw the timeline, but sort of the reprioritization, we've given feedback on maybe pushing things out, adding dollar amounts just based on knowledge of the projects. Does staff feel like they have what they need, and does the commission feel like they've given the direction to staff in order to bring this forward? And then again, so it'll go forward and then it won't come back to the commission, but we will be briefed on when it goes through the various rounds of approval through the typical budget process.
Yes.
Great.
Great. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lom.
Thank you, Commission.
All right, we will move on to the election of chair and vice chair. Get out my cheat sheet. Okay, so I will begin by explaining the duties and responsibilities of the chair, and I'm just going to read them so that everybody is aware. We'll begin with the chair election, and then we'll do vice chair after that. The chairperson's role is to preside at meetings and is in charge of applying the rules of conduct at meetings. The chair shall call or cancel the meeting, whichever the case may be. They will coordinate the setting of the agenda with the staff liaison, ensure the timely start and end of meetings, ensure that consideration of items on the agenda moves along without delay, ensures that public testimony is received but not allowed to disrupt the meeting, and may set an acceptable time limit if necessary. The chair should clarify ideas as they are discussed and repeat motions made in order that all members understand the motion they will be voting on. Chair is responsible for ensuring that actions are properly moved, seconded, and voted upon. The chair should see that the commission maintains focus on the issues before them and does not get off track and doesn't discuss or act on items not listed on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. The chair should attempt to identify the points of agreement among the opinions of the members in order to build consensus. The chair serves as a spokesperson for the commission, representing the views and opinions of the commission as a whole when speaking on its behalf. The time commitment can be similar or significantly greater than the commissioner role, depending on the ad hoc involvement. So we will begin with opening the floor to nominations for the position of chair. And this will be, sorry, the commissioner, so commissioners will nominate one commissioner at a time, and the person nominating must be present at the meeting. A commissioner may enter their own name in nomination. The person offering the nomination can explain why they have nominated the person or why they would be appropriate for the position. So we will now open the floor.
I will like to nominate Chair Brown to continue as the chair for the coming year.
I will sadly not accept the nomination for the chair. I appreciate it. Instead, I would like to nominate Vice Chair Freeman as the chair, since he's just done such a wonderful job. And so I would like to ask if Vice Chair Freeman would be willing to accept the nomination.
Being that this is such an extreme group, I would be honored to serve as chair.
Great. Do we have any other nominations? Commissioner Wei?
Thanks, Chair Brown. I would like to also echo your nomination to recommend Commissioner Vice Chair Freeman as the chair, because he's been such a long-term local resident and also done very well as a vice chair last whole year. And I really appreciate his remarkable balanced perspective. And as like 4 decades Palo Alto resident, his profound insights are very much derived from active, dedicated community involvement. And also his wife's past role as a member of City Council, with their sustained commitment, showcase a very deep-rooted dedication to the community. So I want to nominate, echoing you, Chair, to nominate the Vice Chair to be the chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations before we proceed the process?
I think procedurally, we don't nominate someone who's already been nominated, but before we vote, we could,
Right,
we
right,
can
yeah.
have an opportunity to
Yes.
talk on things.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you.
Didn't have a chance. All right, if there are no other nominations on the floor, okay. We'll close nominations. And do we have a second?
Sure.
Seconded by Kleinhaus? Is that correct? Okay. And then, so we will vote verbally to close nomination. And then we'll have the voting on the motion for Vice Chair Freeman to be chair called by staff.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner
I'm
Dang,
sorry, but do we need to vote on closing nominations? Or-
The verbally, yeah, so
So this is the vote to close nominations.
I don't think it needs to be a roll call
Okay,
vote. We
okay.
can verbally,
Either way, it's a yes vote.
okay, so we can do a first one to close the nominations, and then we'll do a second one for the approval to close nominations now.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Still yes.
Commissioner Dang,
Yes.
Chair Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Wei,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Cribbs.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent. Congratulations. So now, does he do this part?
I don't think, do we pass it that early?
Is it correct, staff, that the chair now moves to facilitate this? Jeff, we've usually done the chair facilitating the vice chair. Correct. Great.
The chair does it. It depends who the chair is.
Yes.
Congratulations, Andy.
What a quick handoff, but thank you. Thank you. So I'll read. It's a very small.
That's a shorter list.
It's a shorter one. Okay, for the vice chairperson's role, assist the chairperson in responsibilities serving the commission, including serve as the active chair when the chair is not available, including regular PRC meetings, other community events, assisting with other tasks as requested by the chair. This may include working with staff and the chair on planning meeting agendas and other matters, quietly, helping guide the chair during meeting when necessary. Okay. Is that more? Oh, okay. All right. There's really a learning process here. Okay, procedure, the chair opens the floor to nominate. Okay, so the chair is opening the floor to nominations for vice chair. So I can, oh, go ahead.
What did you want to do?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Commissioner Wei as the vice chair. I think she's really stepped up to speed on representing the commission. So that's fine. Take a look.
So,
Yes, will you accept the nomination?
Yes, I'm very much honored to accept the nomination, Chair Freeman. I'll be honored to serve alongside you, learning from you as your vice chair, and continue championing and initiatives make our parks more welcoming, sustainable, and reflecting our city's diversity and its global impact. Very much honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we get a second for the nomination? You don't need a second? Okay.
Second?
Okay,
I've been trying, but
yes.
We need a second? No.
no.
No second needed, yeah. Okay,
I would like to nominate Jeff Greenfield for the vice chair. I appreciate Commissioner Wei's enthusiasm, but I think a long-term experience is important here. And there's a lot of nuances that I think Commissioner Greenfield will bring in. He's served in these roles before, and I really think we need experience at this time. And hopefully, if Commissioner Greenfield is selected, then Commissioner Wei can be the next one, because she still has a lot of time to serve here. I do think that experience and understanding of the natural ecosystems of our park system is important, and we need that balance. And so I think that Commissioner Jeff Greenfield will make, I would like to nominate him for the vice chair.
okay. Chair Greenfield, do you accept?
I accept the nomination. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think my term is coming to an end. It's been extended a little bit, but I think particularly with the transition in staff, I think that the experience that I've had on the commission, I could share to help guide the commission over in the years to come. And I think doing that from the role of vice chair would be a good way to help me share my knowledge with both the chair and staff moving forward. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional candidates for vice chair?
I don't have a candidate. I have a comment, and I don't know whether it's appropriate now or not. But I think both Commissioner Greenfield and I are leaving at the same time in November. We expected to leave in March, I think. And since we're staying longer, it feels awkward to me to have a vice chair for half the time, even though I so respect Commissioner Greenfield for all the work that you've done and all of your knowledge and serving together with you for such a long time. I just think that as a commission moving forward, we would be better served by having somebody who's not termed out.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to close nominations.
Can I'd like to nominate myself just to offer another alternative for continuity, and I'd be more than willing to do it. And so I accept my own nomination, which sounds awful.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and second that one. I can second.
Sorry, you're looking for a second?
Yes.
To close nomination?
Yes.
I'll give you a second.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. The motion second, and we'll go into a verbal vote.
So actually, before you go to vote, there should be an opportunity for people to make comments. We kind of missed that
okay.
last time. And I think, and I'm sorry.
Okay,
Because I
let's go ahead and start.
wanted to make some comments supporting your nomination.
Okay. No, you can go ahead and make your comment.
I didn't say a word.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I guess one comment I would make is that with the term, I think I could still be helpful as a vice chair, given that there's only a 2-month period between the end of my term and when the new officers would be appointed in the next organization meeting. So welcome the opportunity.
Yeah. If I have to make any comment, I mean, we basically have 6 months before your term ends, my term ends, Commissioner Cribb's term ends. There's no guarantee that any of us are going to be moving over to the next, over to the next year. So
that's true.
There's an opportunity for, look at things again in the October timeframe, I guess, depending on when we have to go before the council to ask for another term. So, but I'm just throwing that out we have three good qualified candidates for vice chair. And so we'll put it out for the vote. So I'd like to ask for a verbal to close the nominations. We've done that. Okay. So voting will be according to the verbal roll call. So we can go ahead and start with.
Okay. So it's a roll call vote. I thought it'd been a paper ballot in the past, but we don't have that set up.
Or what's a paper
I'm
ballot?
sorry, what are you saying, Ann?
You say the paper ballot.
What's staff's take on that?
We provided the protocol that should be in hand.
I don't have a reference for was it paper last time?
It's typically been paper. Last time there was paper that was prepared with all the commissioner names before.
Christine, do you have?
Yeah, what's
guidance?
interesting here is that the voting will be according to verbal roll call by the staff secretary, and then it says the staff secretary counts the votes and announces only the winner and the number of votes, which sort of implies it's a paper count.
So I can speak to what the city council does. I'm not sure what boards and commissions generally do, but the city council does use paper ballots to nominate its mayor and vice mayor.
And I think ultimately it might be up to the chair.
Yeah, I if it's the way it's been that in the past, I let's go with the paper ballot and then let the secretary count after that. So we just.
Chair Freeman, I apologize. If I might make a suggestion, perhaps we can move on to item number 5, and I can try to round up some paper ballots for the vote, if that might help.
Chair Freeman, does that work for you?
To do what, I'm sorry?
To move on to the next item, and then Christine will try to get some paper ballots together.
Okay, so move on to the next item on the agenda. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. And that is, I don't have it in front of me here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll move forward with ad hocs and liaison reports. Do you have anyone who wants to step out there first? Don't be shy. And you can start if you want. On the Wellness Center.
I can't start because I couldn't get my button on.
Okay.
So yes, the ad hoc that we'll be talking about middle school athletics is meeting tomorrow morning. We're looking forward to a very robust meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Hoy.
Thanks, Chair Freeman. So it was very invigorating to see Youth Leadership Council was very involved in the MLK event this year, and they displayed new products such as 3D printing and etc. And also the program was run really well, good partnership with YCS, and it was a great attendance as well, including city council members versus the team, the youth. And the second event I attended, also enjoyed it, was the Chinese New Year event. And today actually happens Chinese New Year's Eve. However, it is over capacity. It's a wonderful event. It's been going on for many years. I understand staff over there, Adam, Christopher, both are concerned with capacity. So I'm thinking of going through the process of suggesting move the venue to either California Avenue, which we have already blocked the street, or downtown in Ramona, and maybe working with the city council to look into next year. And also it's learning best practices. I was invited to Millbrae for their 2 days of Lunar New Year celebration. It's a celebration, have impact with a lot of Asian communities, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, China, Taiwan. They all celebrate Lunar New Year. And it was also interesting to see how much economic development you can do for those 2 days in Millbrae. They are basically at the scale of similar as wine festival and a wine arts festival, because it's not just celebrating the New Year, it's exchange of culture. Majority food were Asian, but they also have hamburgers. They also have food from Mexico, and also interesting to know different cuisines can actually transfer to each other, including cuisines in Mexico, and looking into how much rice was become a big thing, and they were telling stories in this environment. I think as I commended the city staff starting world cultural events, maybe we can move that into a bigger venue. So it's safety reasons become a street fair. So would be working with city council staff. I also mentioned with a couple of city council staff of the reality. They're all thinking that. So that's my update. And children really enjoying it. And also there's a lot of family crafts things, but we need a better venue for that. Thank you.
Jeff Greenfield.
Yes, just to update on urban forestry, the draft tree and landscape technical manual is open for public review and comment right now through early March. We're expecting the urban forestry annual review at a roundtable at Parks and Rec Commission will be on next month's agenda, as well as Canopy presenting. And the commission should have an opportunity to weigh in on the tree and landscape technical manual update as well. This is part of the It's a staff document, so there wouldn't be any action associated with our review. But it's part of the tree ordinance update that happened a year and a half ago or so, or I guess about closer to 2 years now. And it's an extension of the current existing tree technical manual and enhanced to cover landscape as well. Also, I believe the nature preserve access policy ad hoc is ready to present when there's an open spot on the agenda. I think that might not be in February. Sounded like February was full, but it would be a potential for March coming up.
Okay, I'll make note of that. Okay.
And on park dedication, we left off last month with a general plan to move forward with a recommendation to the commission on a couple of top priorities, and there were some questions about how to proceed, and I think those have been cleared up. So that's something that could potentially be targeted towards March as well. I know we're getting ahead a little bit in terms of the future agendas, but it's kind of the ad hoc report as well.
Great, thank you. Always willing to add additional items.
I wanted to ask
Commissioner
Commissioner Greenfield, how was the urban forestry document talked about for public review, or how is that available?
So it's available on the city website under urban forestry. There's a page that's set up for that, and community stakeholders and arborists and contractors and things like that have been included in the outreach regarding the document.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Grant.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Freeman. Just want to echo Commissioner Cripps. Looking forward to our middle school athletic ad hoc meeting tomorrow morning. And I also attended the Chinese New Year event. So I agree with Wei that the community center was too small and has limited traffic. So a lot of the food vendors there, they had surplus of pre-made food, and they complained about that. So if we can move it out to a street, then we can leverage the local restaurants. And I think it will be more convenient and make a bigger impact. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the only thing I have is, Commissioner Cribbs and I are on the playing field and racket courts. Adam is still gathering information about the tennis, the USTA usage of the Palo Alto tennis courts, and trying to look at the population, which at this point seems to be majority of people who are on the USTA teams in Palo Alto are not necessarily Palo Alto residents. So he's still in the process of gathering information on that. So hopefully we will be able to provide more information from an ad hoc perspective at the next meeting. So that's what we're looking at. And then nothing on Recreation Wellness Center. I don't know if we have anything you want to report on that.
Well, I didn't really think so, except for Concordia has been in town, and various community groups have been meeting with Concordia. They'll be back again. Everybody seems to be, from at least our perspective, pretty excited about the possibilities at Cubberley, and the timeline is very aggressive. And so there'll be a lot of things for the public to do, and a lot of good public input needed. And I think things are moving forward.
Is there any discussion of a specific role for the PRC to play regarding the Cubberley redevelopment and potential need to create?
I think this is a great question, because the assumption I have is that, yes, we would certainly be involved.
And so would there be a potential need to create an ad hoc? And what would the focus of the ad hoc be? What work plan item would we create?
They do have an opportunity to have citizens act as community fellows, and maybe they'll decide that that's a role that somebody from the PRC should have, or maybe it's something different. But I think it's a very good question that we should.
My daughter was a fellow for the last time around, and it's more of a facilitator role that's played.
Yeah,
and drumming up community
Well, I think
interest
it's-
and
I
to
think it's
provide
going to be
input.
important to have a significant role for the commissioner.
Yes. And I think their intent is to use existing fellows that were part of the process before. So she probably have been reached out to, I would think, by this time.
This is true.
Okay, I think that is all we have for ad hoc and liaison reports. So throw it back to the city to talk about future agenda items.
So the future agenda items that we have in for February scheduled will be the sewer rehabilitation project update for the Baylands Nature Preserve. We'd also be looking at the bicycle and pedestrian transportation plan, the BPTP update. Again, like Commissioner Greenfield mentioned, urban forestry annual update. And with that, we would also do the canopy update. Those are the topics for potentially next month.
That's the full schedule.
That's a full agenda.
Yep. Okay.
And then I think we're going to circle back to a vote.
Okay, let's go ahead and start that process.
So how should I vote online, Steve and Sarah?
Christine is going to prompt you.
Okay.
This is a great ballot. It's great. Do I know anybody there? Oh, I used to. Yeah. Yeah. Bing, yes, I do.
Okay. So the secretary counts the votes and take it from there.
One person did not record their name on their vote. I'm not sure if if folks have to put down their name with their vote. Because when we announce the results, I think we have to say who voted for whom.
Process of elimination.
I don't think I put my name on.
Okay, thank you.
I was trying to be anonymous, but didn't quite work out that way. Okay.
So with 3 votes, Jeff Greenfield will be the vice chair for 2025.
I think you need a majority. I'm not sure about that, but I think so.
I probably. Wait a minute, I gotta be.
Yeah, we need 4 votes, right, for each position.
There's 7. There's 7. Oh, we had 3 candidates, right? Well,
In this case, I think we have to do another round of voting.
Yeah.
And I apologize to the commission. I did not make enough photocopies of the vote sheet, so I might have to run up and make some more copies.
Or we could just write in on the back side of the paper or fold it or something.
Wait, what are they doing now?
Get balance to revote. I think,
well, so you could do the top two.
but there aren't a tie.
There are not a top
There's
two.
going to be a tie for second.
Top three, yeah. You made this
Two
very
candidates received 2 votes and 1 candidate received 3 votes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So majority now is 3.
Are you saying the majority is 3? That's a majority vote. Well, no, if that would be the majority. If Commissioner Greenfield received 3 votes, that would mean that the other 2 receive a lesser number of votes. So,
That would be a majority.
yeah. Congratulations, Vice Chair Greenfield. Do you have any
Congratulations.
words of wisdom that you want to throw out our way?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is what I would have said during your nomination. I'm very, very excited and happy that the Chair Freeman is going to be leading the group for the next term. I appreciate the work he's put in as vice chair as well as since being a commissioner, since joining the commission. And beyond that, I look forward to helping support you and staff and the commission and staff in any way I can as vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to applaud Chair Brown for the work that you have done in the last year, and my sort of sitting in as your second hand. I've actually learned a lot from you, and which is one of the reasons that I nominated you again. But you've done really a stellar job, and I think with having Vice Chair Greenfield now as our vice chair, who comes in with a lot of experience as a chair, and having you having had the experience of chair, and I think even Commissioner Cribbs served as chair. So we've got a lot of experience on this commission that is going to just, with the number of CIPs that we've got going forward, and the new commissioners who are on our commission, I think this has been a really great team, and so I'm looking forward to not only finishing this term, but hopefully moving into the next term and working with staff. And I think we've got a lot of good things that are going to be happening in the city. So I'm really looking forward to being the chair. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Commissioner Cripps.
I just would like to extend my thanks to Commissioner Brown now and say what a really good year it's been, I think, on the commission. I think we've got really wonderful commissioners and new commissioners as well. And I've certainly enjoyed this year, but I've enjoyed all the years. And so I'm looking forward to your leadership. And Commissioner Greenfield, now Vice Chair to yours as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to echo that to thank Chair Brown, or just past Chair Brown, for your dedication. Especially, I really like the way you run the meeting. You're very organized, very structured, and you give valid comments. I really enjoy learning that. And also, I actually wrote a small thing about nominating myself. The main thing is, I feel like I come here with a beginner's mind, even if I have a 20 years experience in community engagement, strategic communication. So I learned a lot from the whole commission. Every one of you, I really enjoyed working with you all, especially learning from veterans like Commissioner Clerk and now Vice Chair Greenfield. I'm really thankful. And I want to say that because the New Year's Eve for Lunar New Year. So this is like a summary of our year. And I feel really fortunate to be part of the team. And also really glad Commissioner Dunn's joining us as well. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Greenfield.
Yes, I wanted to thank Commissioner Brown for her service as chair. I think she did a great job for echoing the reasons that other commissioners have already mentioned, but also just appreciate the way she's been able to balance the change in her family with the dedication to the commission as well, and appreciate what she's put in that, and I'm happy for her that she's not serving in a leadership role this next term, and I also really appreciate the diversity of opinion and background on this commission. I think that there is a broad range of experience both on the commission and from the outside world where we come to, and our experiences in Palo Alto and outside of Palo Alto. And I think that serves our community really well overall. And I think there's opportunities for a number of people to take future leadership roles in the commission and keep things going strong. I certainly look forward to that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.